You're listening to the Behind the Cover podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Shure, the premier choice for affordable, durable, and exceptional sounding microphones. With almost a century of microphone design legacy, Shure is committed to delivering immersive sound experiences that resonate with professionals and enthusiasts alike. Whether it's audio production, podcasting, live performances, conferencing, or any form of content creation, Shure is your go-to brand for high-stakes moments, offering reliability and excellence in sound. Eric Nam,
Yes.
Welcome to the Behind the Rolling Stone Cover podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
You are on tour in Australia. You are actually on a world tour right now. Does this country feel familiar to you? Because you've been here before. You're a regular.
I have it. God, this is my third show in Sydney, I think. And it feels familiar, but not. Because I think what I was realizing yesterday is this is the first time I've had an off day in Sydney. So it's always been like...
Wait, you're thinking that today is an off day?
I had an off day yesterday.
I was going to say, because we are working right now.
Yeah, no. Today's our off day.
And I know you're going straight to your sound check and everything. Oh, you had a day off yesterday.
Yeah, so we went to Bondi and we just laid around for a bit and we hung out. And that was the first time I've seen like the outside of my hotel room, except for when I climbed the bridge on a show day years ago.
Wow.
So it always feels good to come back, but it still feels very new and interesting every time.
And this feature that we're talking about, this Rolling Stone India cover feature, it was only published 2 months ago, so very recent. And it delves into your life and your career that has been spent between two cultures because, born in Atlanta in the US, moved to South Korea to be part of an incredible TV show that kind of launched you, Star Audition. Parents are South Korean. I feel like you had this sliding doors moment where you could have taken the corporate route. You had this pretty good job at Deloitte. You'd studied international business studies.
Yeah.
And then you moved to South Korea, where in that K-pop industry, it's all about the groups and then the idols as well that come from those. Yeah. Whereas you kind of ventured into this solo career straight away. And I read somewhere that you felt like you couldn't speak Korean as well as others. And I thought about how anxiety-inducing that would be in an industry that is so nurturing of the Korean communities and the fandom communities there. What was that like?
I got to Korea. I couldn't really speak Korean. I spoke Spanish better than I spoke Korean. And that was the language that I learned in school. And so it was very basic, like, I'm hungry, please stop. More like very basic childish Korean. And so I had to very quickly learn the language, and I did that through being literally just forced into TV shows and not knowing what's going on, but realizing that if I want to play this game, I have to pick it up. So there's a lot of self-teaching and like trial by error and like living in Seoul, which kind of forced me to pick it up. But it was very anxiety inducing and it was terrifying, and I always felt like I was at a disadvantage because I had no idea what was happening. And I couldn't sing the way that people wanted me to sing, which was they wanted me to do power ballads, and I can't even do power ballads like in the way that Korean OST power ballads are sung. And, I wanted to be in a group, but like, you're too old. I was 23, 24, and like, you're way too old to be in a group. You cannot be in a group. So try to be a rock band, which rock bands don't really work in Korea, or you could go be a solo power ballad dear. And so the options, the pickings were very slim. But somehow we made it work. We threw everything we had at it, did the TV, did the radios, did all the promos, and tried to find a balance in terms of the musical style. And I just got very lucky, to be very honest, to be where I am.
Very lucky and very talented as well. Let's not discount that. But I also think you had a lot of no's from the industry, but then the people who said yes were your fans. It's almost like you put in the work and you had these walls up from certain gatekeepers, but the ultimate gatekeeper is the fan, and that's who chose you, which is a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
And you're also, you have this Korean American identity, which I think has been such a beautiful gap bridger between the East and the West as well. And I wonder if there's one thing or a few things that you wish that the uninitiated of K-pop knew about that community and that industry.
Oh, I hope and I wish that people knew that there's a lot of diversity within K-pop. What a lot of people perceive and think of as K-pop is going to be your BTS or your Blackpink type of music and sound and vibe. And even within their discography, there's so many different types of visuals and performances. But there are so many layers to Korean music, be it K-hip-hop or ballads or indie or singer-songwriters. We just all kind of funnel into this overarching genre of K-pop because people just don't know the complexities and the layers to it. And so even when people look at me, it's very interesting because my last 3 albums are all English. I haven't put out a Korean song in probably 5 years.
Why?
Because English is my first language. I feel more comfortable writing in English. All my thoughts and my natural reactions are in English. And so to do it in Korean feels like, for me, I'm dumbing it down or I'm like losing the essence of what I've originally written. And I don't emote in the same way that I do in English in Korean. And so to me, that's just a very natural thing. Yet, I am still perceived as a strictly K-pop artist. And I am still, even recently, they're like, oh, we're looking for Western artists is an answer I got. I was like, I'm American. All my albums are in English. My shows are 80, 90% in English. I don't understand what you mean by a Western artist. And so...
What was that opportunity for? Obviously, you don't have to name names, but
it's
what was it?
It's for shows here and there. It's for gigs here and there where it's like, oh, we need like a Western artist. I'm like, what do you mean?
Interesting.
And, yeah.
The thing that you thought would be a hindrance to you is now a hindrance on the other end of the scale.
It's a hindrance. So it's, for me, I think people who are Korean-American or they are multicultural, I like to think of it as like third cultured in some ways. We never fit into a certain box. And so they don't, when people love boxes and they love the checklist of like, we have our diversity play, we have our whatever play, our genre, whatever. And then they'll look at me and like, he's K-pop. But then they're like, oh, but is he K-pop? But he's not BTS. He doesn't have like it just confuses people. And they don't know where or how to position me, which my only response can be, that's on you. Like, I can't force you to think of me as, not K-pop or just I don't know. It's confusing to a lot of people, and I've kind of put my hands up and say, whatever's easiest for you, just go for it. But I really hope you would understand that there's a complexity within K-pop where it's not just these massive groups with massive numbers. There are so many other incredibly talented musicians and styles and genres within K-pop. And perhaps I'm not just K-pop.
You're so many things, because I didn't really think about Eric Nam, the musician, being so multidimensional. I thought about Eric Nam, the human being so multidimensional. You're a touring artist. You have a podcast. You're a startup founder with your app that you have from around mindfulness. There's just so many layers to you, and I didn't think that could possibly be a hindrance just from a music level. So my question is, because you're so diverse in what you do, are there barriers around that or positives around that when you're trying to make people understand Eric Nam, the human?
I think it's a double-edged sword. There is definitely a positive where I can apply myself to many different mediums and opportunities because I wear so many hats. I don't think there are a lot of artists who are like, oh, I feel comfortable being a podcaster and interviewing people. Throw me in a room with, I don't know, Matt Damon and Barack Obama, and I'll take it. It doesn't really throw me off to be able to have an opportunity like that should it present itself. On the other side, like I was trying to say about music, it's a lot of people don't know how to view me or how to position me or what category to put me into. So sometimes I'm just lost in the fray, in the riffraff of like, what do we do with him? And so that can be a disadvantage. So for example is there are certain brands who are like, we really want to work with you, but they always have to check back with the other corresponding office in whatever territory that they're not in. Because they're like, we have to check with Korea. I'm like, why? This is a U.S. opportunity I'm in America for, and as an American that I should be taking. Oh, right. Hold on. And it's always like this back and forth, weird, awkward political thing, which sometimes are like, oh, but Korea was like, they wanted somebody else who's more like K-pop. And I was like, okay. So it's a very confusing thing. I definitely think there are places and times where it's an advantage. There are times where it's like it gets confusing for political internal for reasons, and then it just kind of fizzles.
You know what's wild about that? I think of Beyonce. Just released Cowboy Carter, her version. It's not a country album, it's a Beyonce album. Let's be clear on that. But the reason why she created that record was because she didn't feel welcome in that space where she wanted to create country music. 2016, she released her song Daddy Lessons, performed it at the CMAs, got this huge backlash. She's not a country artist. If Beyonce is feeling like she is ostracized from certain communities, then the experience that you're having is on a global level with our biggest artists.
I don't want to. I'm not here to be like, boo-hoo, look at me. Like, I don't think that's it. I think it's just a point of, to your point, even with Beyonce, just a lot of people. We are so accustomed to seeing certain people in certain categorizations, and if they step outside of that, we're like, wait, what are we doing? Beyonce's doing country? Why?
Yeah.
But it's like, why not?
Why not is the question.
I'm always like, why not? Isn't it more interesting to be unexpected, to put somebody in a place where maybe you're like, oh, but it works. And if you can make it work, that's where there's magic. There's where there's virality, or there's perhaps a story that hasn't been told that needs to be told. And I think that's where I think of things as opportunities, and that's why I keep trying to do things in places where people are like, why are you here? I'm like, oh, just like watch. We'll see how we make this work.
Watch and
learn. So,
learn.
I think that's a very great point that you bring up, and something that I would love to see more artists, more people attempt and also get behind and support.
So K-pop is a really special community. I mean, it's influenced the mainstream industry in so many ways when you think of the label sector and management as well, and the way that they engage with fandom, nurture communities, even down to merch drops and things that they're doing around that. But there's this general interest in not just the training side of the K-pop community, which I think is pretty incredible when you think of how they train these artists to be so immensely talented at what they do, and you can see that in the work that they're doing. But there's also an interest in the strict rules around it, there's this thought that they can't have a mobile phone and they can't have a partner. What are your thoughts on that now in 2024? Are those strict rules around K-pop still a thing?
Well, I think I've aged out a little bit from the trainee system, so I don't know what it's like exactly right now, but there are a lot of rules. Dating, I think, is a no-no for trainees, or not even trainees, people who are actively in the system. And I think there are a lot of critiques, particularly from a Western perspective, because it's so different from what Western artists are used to. But at the same time, I'd like to people to consider that K-pop performances and production and the meticulous maintenance and management of the groups, as well as the fandoms and all the great things that come from it, are very different from a Western system as well. So in order to play within K-pop, you kind of have to play by those rules. And I think when there are artists or trainees who are going against the rules, it's really throwing into jeopardy not only that one person's career, but the entire group, and also the success of the entire business. And so perhaps it can sound harsh for somebody to be let go from a group for quote unquote dating, but when you lose trust with a business partner, because at the end of the day, music is still business, and you have to be able to trust the people that you're doing work with. If you lose that trust and you put into jeopardy the success of not just your group, but an entire company, I think there's something to be said about ramifications or consequences. And if it leads to something like that, I think everybody knows what you're signing up for when you're going into K-pop. And there's also a lot of critique about training for so long, you know, but there's a reason these artists are able to perform at the caliber that they are. There's a reason people are attracted to this, because you're not getting it from the West. You're not seeing groups of young, incredibly talented individuals doing the most intricate dance moves while doing a spin and singing with somebody flying through the sky.
Yeah.
With the exception of Pink. And so I think, you know, you can critique it, but at the same time, you have to respect it. And that's kind of what I think about the entire thing.
Brilliant answer. Brilliant.
Thank you.
All right, so this is your third time in Australia. What do you think Aussies would love about South Korean culture?
I think the food and drinking culture.
We do like to drink in
love
Australia.
our
Yep.
food, and we love to drink. We like to go out. Things are open forever.
Oh, I like that. We don't have as much of that across Australia.
You guys
so,
close at like 5 p.m.
Yeah,
and
what's
like
it
10 I don't know what's going on.
okay, but you're here on the Easter long weekend, though.
Okay, yeah,
So you're
fair.
experiencing a nanny state across the board.
Yeah.
But yes, no, we definitely have lockout laws that
Yeah, you guys
hampered our
close
culture.
very early, but Korea stays open forever. And so if
Aussies
you,
would love that.
Yeah, like there are days, Monday mornings, I'm going to work in Korea. It's 8 a.m. People are still at the club, stumbling out.
Day clubs are a thing.
No, they're just up all night, and they're leaving the club at 8 or 10 a.m. It's not a day club. It's just
Oh my
they're
God. It was a
out
nightclub and now
all
it's the
night.
day.
Yeah, it's a nightclub turned into a morning. So
And say I wanted like, you know, a 10-course degustation meal.
what's a digger station?
Degustation. It's like when you get those tiny little meals and they come out and
Oh,
there's like
yeah,
many
yeah,
courses
yeah,
of them.
yeah.
Say I wanted that at like 2 a.m. Can I get that?
I don't know if you can get like a tasting menu at 2 a.m., but you could go and find pretty much any cuisine you want at 2 a.m. Like, I feel like a 10-course thing is like, you're going to sit, you have a chef that's preparing everything. Like,
Yeah.
But
Bad example. Okay.
you could get whatever you want, honestly. 2
Aussies would
a.m.,
love
3
that.
a.m.
Amazing. Also, there's this quote in the Rolling Stone India cover piece. It's a great quote from you on music consumption. I want to read it to you and then get your thoughts on it. So you said, "We have lost a lot of what feels like a natural discovery, people searching for good music and searching for what they like. Our platforms are kind of a beat to us, and so that's what I think is the trickiest part. We have to write and think a certain way, writing for the algorithm." Mm-hmm. Has that changed the way that you view your art and create your art, knowing that?
I think it has changed it for everybody. I mean, it's frustrating, but I know so many friends who are with labels who their big thing is like, is this going to go on TikTok? Is this going to work on Reels? And that's the way they think about it.
That
And
conversation wasn't happening 6 years ago.
No, it wasn't even happening 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's the length of a song. Like, it keeps getting shorter and shorter. Like, I think now I'm seeing songs under 2 minutes. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you saying under 2 minutes? Like, I'm sure you're getting something across, but when we started to hit like 2:30, I was like, wow, these are really short songs. And then we started to hit like 2:10, and now I'm seeing under 2 minutes. That's like 100 to 110-second songs, which is so short. It just speaks to our attention span and like what we're used to consuming, just like swiping constantly. And so a lot of the songwriters that I work with were just like, how do we cut out the riffraff constantly? Just get to the point kind of thing. And then you're just like left with, I don't know, very viral, potentially snippets and sounds. And that's what people seem to be optimizing for, which, you know, there's something to be said about writing for the times and the place and culture that we're living in. But it's also kind of sad to see such a shift in terms of what a song is in such a short amount of time. And I think there are moments now, even for me, admittedly, where I'm listening to a song like, oh my God, this song is so long. And I look at it, it's like 3 minutes, 10 seconds. I'm like, God, that's so long.
Yeah.
Yesterday we were at the beach playing a song and it just wouldn't stop. And I said, why won't this song end?
And how long was that song?
It was probably like a 4-minute song. But I was like, this is so long.
But you're not doing 2-minute songs. I can't remember if
I'm
I've
at
listened
like,
to it.
my average is like, I think 2:30.
Yeah.
2:40. 2:30, 40.
Does not feel like 240. because I replay them over and
thank
over
you.
and over
That's
again.
that's the goal. But it's funny. We'll sit there in a room and people are like, I'm like, oh, I think you should have another go at the hook, or we should have a bridge or a middle eight. And they're like, no. Just stop it and make them want to go back and hear it again.
Yeah, then you get the extra streams.
Yeah, and I was like, I mean, sure, what do I know? But that's
If
what people
you're
are
getting
doing.
your message across, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
If you're taking the listener on a journey, there's
It gets
nothing
cut
wrong with
off,
it.
yeah.
But how long is that journey?
I don't know. See, that's a big question.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me, I think there's like a thing where I'm always like, oh, I would love to hear the hook one more time. It would feel like a complete song. Like, no. That's where you cut it. And then they have to go back. I'm like, okay, I guess. I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, I think creativity and I think creation should always win. And the minds of creatives should always win. And I don't know if we'll be able to, but I'd like to think that artists are able to tell their whole complete thoughts and stories the way that they want them to be told. And I'm sure there's a sped up version, a slowed down version, R&B remix, plus a TikTok version that will get disseminated into the world. But that true core form exists in some way, shape, or form.
Definitely. Plus, things move in cycles. You know,
Yeah.
we're going to, the concept album is already coming back. You know, look at Beyonce's
Yeah.
record. So I think that there will definitely come a time when people are craving a 7-minute song. It sounds weird to say because I cannot imagine it, but I think it's coming.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody's how long? I don't even know.
It feels 7 minutes.
It's like a Lord of the Rings trilogy to
Yeah.
me, but it somehow works.
It's like reading a book.
Yeah. It somehow works.
And we still stream it.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to let you go because you have a sound check to get to and a show to
too.
perform. But I have one last question about your
Yes.
performance. You have a lot of fun on
I do.
stage. You joke around, you're dancing. It's like half comedy stand-up set, half amazing performance. That's not every artist does that. Not every artist is like really honing in on that between song banter and making it a good time for everyone in the room, not just musically, but just being there in your presence. And where did that come from?
It came very naturally, to be very honest. I think to be
Are you a joker?
I am, and so I banter a lot. I poke fun a lot. To be very honest, I think it probably came from me being freaked out that I would have to sing 4 songs in a row otherwise, right? Like,
You're just trying to catch a
I'm
breath?
like, I'm trying to breathe.
It's
I
genius.
just danced my butt off and I just screamed. Like, the thing about my songs is there's always some high note or run that's going to be done. And people, I don't know how Taylor does a 3.5-hour show because to me, I'm like, how are people doing that many songs? And I think I've worked myself up to a point where like I got through 21, 22 songs and it's fine. But in the process of me getting to this point, it was like, we need breaks. And that's going to come with me drinking water and like, you know, talking some crap to some people in the audience. And so I think that's how it naturally came about.
I also love that because not only is it unique to an Eric Nam show, it's every show is unique at this
Yeah.
point then. So you're going to have fans, which you probably already do, following you across the world because they're not just experiencing the same thing night after night. It's a completely different experience.
Yeah, and there's like, you know, I do a birthday thing every night, and the reason I do it is every once in a while it won't work, but most nights I could play off the energy of what's your name, how old are you turning, who are you here with kind of thing. Because everybody has a different story and everybody's very unique in their response when I'm talking to them. And there's always something that I find really funny or cute or I can poke fun at, and it provides like hopefully a great memory for them, but also a really funny encounter for the entire crowd.
I love
which
that.
I think is really fun.
Well, I hope you have some funny birthday stories for this evening in Sydney.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for the thoughtful interview, and it was great talking to you.
Thank you.